Love is always going to be the same. Our hearts can only hold so much of it. And when you first fall in love, those feelings are the same. Even if you're just a little kid and you fall in love with your kindergarten teacher, that love is real to that little child. You know that. So she was brokenhearted, thought she'd never love again. And then she fell in love, and then she just became like she's 16 years old again. And they're just like two kids. And I thought, oh, what a great idea. So I wrote about that.
See, that idea makes me optimistic. But it also worries me a little bit because part of me wants those feelings to calm down a little bit once I get older. But those love feelings stay just as strong throughout life.
Well, people do that. You see those old people in nursing homes. Them old men running after them old women. Or all the nurses are those old women trying to hit on those old men. You never get over that. I mean, we're just born to love, and we should always be open to it.
So not Billie Eilish, Lee T.I.
Right.
Yeah, and I love and they and feelings and your kindergarten teacher. Can you remember your first teacher you had a crush on or thought was cute or whatever?
All my teachers were females, so I did not have crushes on any of them.
High school, college?
Okay.
Oh, whoa.
I do remember.
Oh, hit something here. Playing Battleship.
High school, I had he had to be an ENFP, and he was my English teacher. Very handsome.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I remember like probably my third grade teacher was the first teacher I was like, whoa, Mrs. Anderson is, what are these? I am in confusion. But she was probably like 31 at the time.
Sure.
She just felt like so old.
But you've always been attracted to older women. Like you love
Maybe
that,
that's where
like,
it started. Maybe it was Mrs. Anderson. Well, I thought those Christian school.
Right.
That's where it started.
Right.
But anyways, like somebody like bringing that up, you know,
Oh,
like
right.
like that's interesting. Like that's a weird thing to talk about.
Right.
Like, oh, your crush on your kindergarten teacher. Like, shh,
Nobody says
don't talk about that. What the hell is that?
Right.
So
right.
probably not lead TI. Probably not a feeler.
Right. And what's interesting too, when you compare what the guy was saying, so I thought I was listening to her until he was
What
like,
did you think about the guy?
I thought that was very interesting because he was like, well, I want those feelings to settle. I want them to go away.
What did that feel like to you?
It felt like TE to me. I thought he was saying go away those emotions.
I have no idea. I only saw it one
or
clip.
thinker, I should say.
I was wondering if he had FE in the stack.
Okay,
I don't know. Maybe he does. Maybe I don't know. Maybe he's TE. Whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I felt like he was trying to do some type of settling. Like,
Yeah.
not sure if I should just go all in on masculine FI as a savior. Probably right. That
Right,
Maybe
for
I
sure.
should. And she's like, nope, all in on that. He's like, okay, well, you're Dolly Parton, and I'm wearing this silly hat that my dad gave me, so what the hell do I know?
Well, my relationship with Porter was kind of up and down. We kind of collided all the time because we were both very strong-willed, very, very confident people. But when I had started with Porter's show, I had told him that I would stay for 5 years because I never had planned to be just a girl singer in somebody else's show. I wanted to be a girl singer that was going to be my own person and be a star on my own. So we were doing so well together, doing duets, that I was really a big part of his show, and his show really became much bigger because of our duets and our collaboration together and just the way we were together. It's kind of like Sonny and Cher. You know, we were kind of fire and ice. We'd kind of go, against each other. But we fought a lot, but there was a lot of love. There was a lot of respect. I learned a lot from Porter. And even though the times were rough, I managed to stay 7 years before I went out on my own. But I wouldn't take anything for the times. We clashed a lot. We kind of partied on bad terms, but we pulled all that back together through the years. Anytime you separate, whether it's a relationship, friendship, marriage, or partnership in business, there's always tender feelings. People get hurt at the time. Somebody got to lose for a while. But eventually, we all won.
Okay, so it's a classic story. If I had to work with somebody and then it fell apart, it was 5 years. So it's like, what is your interpretation going to be? You have a multiple choice. If you're a decider, it's going to be the other guy, and he was so mean, it was so unfair, and I'm going to sue him into oblivion. I'm going to put my life on hold and just deal
all
with
in.
Right. Or a double decider is going to be like, yeah, he's kind of an idiot. We fought all the time, no big deal, worked itself out. Anyways, I wanted my pathway.
Right.
So you're seeing the just not taking the bait of fighting with this Porter asshole.
Right.
Right. And then also a little hint of, if she's double decider, seems to be hinted on the DI of like, I want to do me. I want to do my standards.
Right.
Like, I have a goal for myself.
Right.
Porter didn't tell me, or my dad didn't tell me, or somebody else didn't tell me I should go do this. She's like,
yeah,
I want to go do this.
Right. It wasn't an allowed story. Well, Porter didn't allow
Yeah.
me to do XYZ, even though I wanted to do XYZ. He didn't allow me to. I knew who I wanted to be when I got in that situation. I told him I'd be there for 5 years, and he locked on. And I don't know what type Porter is, but he seemed to be fighting her almost with his DI, and maybe even a little too much DI. It might be an IP. And
that's what she was saying too. The both of them were strong-willed.
yeah, they fought. And so it's interesting in that situation because when I actually did the censor of what the hell actually happened, he was so unbelievably unfair to her, like to an extreme. Sued her. It was so bad. And still to her dying day, she like gave him the song I Will Always Love You. Like the amount she did in a ridiculously, as a single decider, EJ, unfair situation, I was like, but it's not right. Like, I was so, like,
Yeah.
I was way more bothered than Dolly was. And, like, as she was saying what she's talking about, the lesson there, she's like, we both won in the end.
Right.
Like, we both got to win. I'm like, damn, how much you would have to accept, and I accept this with computers.
Yeah.
How much negative and unfairness you actually have to accept to be able to then both win, because if you're on your journey, you're fine.
Can I infodom it on that?
Please do.
Can I have a back and forth? So one thing I'm seeing, do we have can you find a picture of all the types? Maybe just go to the elimination tool real quick.
Okay.
So I'm wondering, like, if there's something as we're getting the terms more understood, there's like double deciders and then there'll be super double deciders. Let me identify that. So a double decider who's play last.
Yeah.
Right.
If they're DI, right? Like, they're gonna have a harder time jumping.
Right,
To
a
the,
double
yeah.
decider. So Jerry Seinfeld,
Yeah.
he he'll kind
He
of
feels more like an IP to me.
he'd probably sue you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He probably wouldn't let that go.
Right,
So I wouldn't
right.
call Jerry Seinfeld, I wouldn't call a play last double decider a super double decider.
Sure, depends.
But
yeah.
we are seeing some super double deciders
Right.
if they're double activated in the middle, whatever. So the consume play blast would be save your DI, but then double activated DE.
Yes.
Even my row too.
Yeah.
So, like, I just don't feel stuck. I feel way stuck in information.
Yeah.
But I can't really feel stuck very long for people because I'm like, I'll just switch over to my TE. What the fuck? Who cares?
Right.
And I just always felt more inside than how I looked on the outside. So I really patterned my look after the town tramp in our hometown, the trollop, the one that would kind of walk up and down the streets and get in the car and ride off for a few minutes, come back and get in another car. I didn't know anything about that part then. I just knew she was beautiful. She had all this beautiful blonde hair, red lipstick, and makeup, tight short skirts, and high heel shoes. And I just thought she was the prettiest thing I'd ever seen. So I kind of patterned my look after that. I always loved the Fredericks of Hollywood magazines. That was just kind of, to me, how I felt like I wanted to look. So I think it used to bother me that, when people, it didn't change me. It didn't make me do it different. But I kind of get a little embarrassed sometimes if somebody made too much fun of it. But that was when I knew they didn't know who all I was.
Yeah.
This is feminine ESFP logic. You hear about this. Like, you hear about, like, girls that are like dressing super cute and sexy, and they're like, why's all the guys at the gym staring at me?
Oh.
Like, there was a guy on TikTok that did a joke of that. He's like, I went into the gym in my see-through boxers and no shirt on, and I started working out. All the girls started giving me mean looks. Get the fuck off me. Why are you looking at me? Let me work out. Like, yeah, right? Fucking thank you. Like, walking around town looking like fucking Barbie,
Yeah.
mimicking hookers, and all the guys are like going fucking crazy. Like, why are you looking at me? Like, what do you mean? But like the ESFP lodge, like, I don't see the connection. Oh, now I see the connection. That's a tough gig to do if you're. I feel bad for athletes where it's like their peak is in their late 30s.
Yeah.
You see that really hard with the bodybuilders and the football guys where they'll sit around in their 50s talking about the good old days.
Yeah.
Man, that kind of sucks, and especially like if your whole career is built off of how you look.
Yeah.
It's going to peak when you're younger, and then you're just trying to make it last longer. And,
Yeah.
some people pull it off, and it's great. But it's.
Right.
I remember when we were getting into psychology, I'm like, oh, this is great. Because, like, you're in your prime when you're, like, fucking bald and old and ugly.
You look better when you're more wrinkled.
Because if you saw some young kid, he's like,
Yeah.
psychology, like, you don't fucking know anything.
I know, right?
Like, all the greatest psychologists are, like, old and, like, wrinkled. They've been in the library for 50 years.
Right, so I should be, like, trying to emphasize
If you want to
the
be
wrinkles I'm
respected,
getting. Yeah.
in psychology.
Right, I know.
Like Dolly's too pretty. If she starts
right.
saying psychology, everyone's like, you're too pretty. You don't know how the world works. Like, oh, you look like a fucking wet blanket that got beat up and dragged behind a truck. You must know how the world works.